Welcome to the Content 10X Podcast, the show where content creators learn how to harness the power of content repurposing. And now, your host, Amy Woods.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Content 10X podcast. This week, it's all about Facebook, and I have a fantastic guest on the show. My guest is Gavin Bell. Now, Gavin is a multi-award-winning entrepreneur, speaker, podcast host, and director of Fat Pony, a Facebook advertising agency. So his agency works with brands all over the world, and they help them to use Facebook in a way that not only builds their audience, but turns that attention into revenue as well. And he's worked with all sorts of brands from Virgin, Huffington Post, Entrepreneur on Fire, Social Media Examiner. Gavin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Amy. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you on. I have to ask immediately, what was the name Fat Pony? What's the origins of Fat Pony?
It's a good question. So my business name before was Blue Cliff Media, and I just felt it was like a really corporate sounding and totally not fun name. And so I kind of had in my head for like a good year or so, I kind of want to change the name to something fun or funny. And Lauren, my girlfriend who rides horses, was like, why don't you just call it Fat Pony? And I was like, yes, that is perfect. That's the kind of thing that I would have on a t-shirt. And so let's go for it. So yeah, we changed the name like 6 months ago, and I just really like the name because every time I say it, people are like, why is your business called Fat Pony? And then it starts off a conversation.
It is. It's a great idea. It's a conversational starter, isn't it? And it's funny, and it gives off your personality, your fun personality as well. So I really like it. Why not call it Fat Pony? She could have said anything really at that point then, couldn't she, given that Fat Pony just let's go with it.
I know.
I love it. Yeah, it's great. Nothing to do with Facebook. It means you can diversify as well, doesn't it? You haven't got ads, digital content, anything like that in the name. So the world's your oyster as the business grows as well with a name like Fat Pony.
I know, absolutely. And I think it's just quite funny if, 10, 20 years time, we've got a enormous portfolio of, whatever types of businesses. It's quite funny to be like, yeah, that's Fat Pony Properties over there. Or, it's just you can be successful in business without having to be that corporate professional sound.
Yeah, I agree. What was it? Blue Cliff
Media.
Yeah, it did sound quite corporate, didn't it? So good move. So Facebook, all about Facebook. That's what I want to talk to you about today. And I think it's really timely because I have noticed more than ever recently when I've been speaking to mainly potential new clients, and we'll go through their content and what they want to create, what they want us to help them with. And it's becoming a bit of a theme that when I say, and what about Facebook? What do you want us to do on Facebook? Are you on Facebook? People are more and more starting to say, no, either I've stopped on Facebook, or I'm thinking about moving away from it because I don't think it's worth it anymore. Nobody's really seen my content. So I guess this is quite a big opening question, but what is your opinion on this? So for small businesses, Facebook, should they be staying on Facebook?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a couple of angles that I want to tackle this with. And first and foremost, from my perspective, although we focus purely on Facebook ads, the reason we focus on Facebook ads is because they drive the best results for our clients. If Facebook didn't work, then I would move away from Facebook. So Facebook definitely works. And I think the results that, our clients and other businesses get on Facebook is testament to that. But the angles that I want to go down are one angle, which is a lot of people don't want to use Facebook from a personal perspective based on, all the things that have come out in the news and their ethics and so forth, and maybe saying that, their grandparents use Facebook, so they don't want to use Facebook. Mm-hmm. And I think that, if you don't want to use Facebook from a personal perspective, that's totally no problem. You don't have to use it. I even have a tool on my laptop called Kill Newsfeed. That means I don't have a Facebook newsfeed because I don't want to see what people are having for breakfast. But that's not a good enough argument to say I'm not going to use Facebook for my business, because you should be basing that on, can I get results in this platform, as opposed to I'm not using it for a personal aspect. So I think some people might fall into that category, in which I'd say, well, I mean, you need to be using it to get results for your business. And I think the second category of people, which are we've tried Facebook, or Facebook's not given us the organic reach, it just doesn't really work for us. In that case, what I would say is, chances are you don't have the right strategy in place, because every business that I've ever worked with, unless they are a business that doesn't have a good product or service, Facebook can work for them in some aspect, whether that's a luxury brand. I've just been off a call with a client earlier who their product is £100,000 or $100,000 because they're selling citizenship to different countries, and they use Facebook as a lead generator. Now, they're not going to put up an ad and say, this product's £100,000, but they put up an ad to maybe try and get someone to download their brochure, to then get the sales team to phone them and start that relationship. So if Facebook isn't working for you, then I think what you really need to do is reevaluate your strategy. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely much harder than it used to be to get results on Facebook and to get, good organic reach and to get people watching your content. Much harder than it used to be. But that's not to say that there's no value in it. So I think what you need to actually do as a business is look at it and say, is this a platform that realistically I can invest time and money in to get results or not? Just as you should be doing with all of the different platforms. And don't get me wrong, Instagram is also owned by Facebook. And so when it comes to an advertising perspective, they're the same thing. So it should come down to, can I get results on this platform or not? The answer is going to be yes, but do you have the time and the money and the resources to invest into it to get those results?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that, what you said in terms of the time and the money. So like digging a little bit deeper into that. So let's say, when people get frustrated with the organic reach, which yes, for businesses, business pages has diminished considerably, but then there's no denying that Facebook ads platform is, the most powerful advertising platform that there is for people to advertise on if they get it right, as you said, with the right strategy. Now, if you had, it's funny, it's kind of like going all in on one or the other when it seems like the obvious answer is to do a bit of a blend. But let's say somebody said, okay, I'm not going to do any more attempts at this organic play on Facebook because no one ever sees anything and it's it doesn't feel like a great use of my time. I'm only going to run Facebook ads. But what's your opinion on that from the perspective of how you then appear? And can it work only running ads but not actually having all the other aspects of social media from an organic side playing in the background of paid ads?
Yeah, I think it definitely can work. So the constant struggle that I have working with clients is trying to get clients to continue to create content whilst they're already seeing results from a paid perspective. Their tendency is to, when they start getting results from paid, is to kind of ignore the organic because they don't see the purpose in it. But I always put it and say, well, if you're running ads, how would you feel if you're a consumer? You see an ad, you click on it, you go to that page and you realize that page hasn't posted anything since 2017. You're going to be, or they have posted stuff, but it's just rubbish that's getting no engagement. What's it going to do to the trust that you would be putting into that person? It's obviously going to diminish it. And so I would say I think there definitely needs to be a blend. And what we need to be doing from a content perspective is ideally focusing on high quality video content and then using that high quality video content in and as part of our advertising strategy. So from an advertising perspective, we're either probably trying to generate sales or we're trying to generate leads. And if we're doing that, one of the things that we need to get right is the targeting. Who are the people that are seeing the ads that are trying to take that action? And one of the most powerful things that we can do when we're advertising on Facebook is something called retargeting. So somebody engages with one of our videos on Facebook. We can then retarget them with an ad to essentially say, you watched this video And so we're now serving you this ad. So to give an example of what that might look like, if you're, let's say you're a local business, let's say you are a gym, you might be putting free content out there that is simple exercise videos, 30-second exercise videos. You can put them onto your page. You might get, 100 views and 3 likes. So you're going, I'm not getting much engagement. This isn't very good. But if you put a little bit of paid advertising behind that and promote that out to people in your local area that are in your target demographic, that have an interest in, health and wellness, you're going to start to amass some views on that, which is great. Then we can use retargeting to retarget the people that have watched that video with an offer. Now, this is important because when somebody sees that secondary ad with the offer, they've already seen your exercise video. And so you've started to build that trust and that relationship with that person. They already know who you are. And so the results tend to always be better. So to go back to your initial question, there needs to be, in an ideal world, there needs to be a blend of both organic and paid to get the best results, both from a branding perspective and results from an advertising perspective. But it can work just focusing on one or the other. It just won't work as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when I see an ad, just the kind of person that I am, I would always click on, okay, who is this business? Let's go and look at, the page, look at what content they put out. And as you said, if I see that they must only be running the paid ads, because I then can't really find anything else going on, they haven't posted for ages. I'm not saying it would massively put me off, because the kind of person I am, I'd probably then go to their website and go down more of a rabbit hole. And at least I would have found out about them. So in some regards, that ad would have still, to them, had some effect, because they would be on my radar. But it's quite off-putting if you see that there's no other content behind it, it's just paid ads. But then on the flip side, only putting out organic content with no no paid strategy behind, I think that's where people are saying, that they're struggling the most. So I suppose drilling down a little bit on that. So, you mentioned video as an example. So people who tend to listen to the podcast will be business owners, people who work in marketing for businesses, entrepreneurs, kind of people building personal brands, especially as well, creating longer form content on their own platform. So video content, podcasts, maybe blog, and then what we're trying to teach is how can you have one core medium that you create content for, be it video, podcast, blog, live stream maybe, and then repurpose that for different platforms. So for Facebook in this conversation. So let's say somebody is a video content creator every week, creating video for their for their business, for content marketing. How would you recommend that they could go about that nice blend that you suggested, like of the organic or paid? How, for a long form content that's going to be sitting on another platform, how can we then repurpose that to a Facebook strategy?
Yeah. So I think, just like any platform, I guess the first question you need to ask yourself is, what's the users on Facebook likely to be doing? So on Facebook, people are going to be speaking to friends and family. They're going to be, wasting time on the sofa. So as a business owner, what we can't really do is just put on pure business content. Well, we can, but it's not going to perform as well. What I found to work really well, and I guess the audience that you just described kind of is me as well. Personal brand, has a business, creates video for the likes of YouTube. What I found to work really well is to create kind of humorous videos, 1 minute, 2 minute long, around business and around marketing. When I've posted, a marketing tutorial, doesn't perform very well. When I post something that's quite funny, such as, things not to do at a networking event, then it always performs much better, and it brings in the shares and the comments, which is what you really want to get from an organic perspective, because that then promotes you in the algorithm. But one thing I would say is Facebook has 3 goals, which is 1, to have more people come into the platform, 2, to be spending more time on the platform, because that means at the end of the day they get more ad revenue. And so if you're creating content that brings people to the platform and gets them spending time on the platform, consuming your video content, Facebook are going to send that to more people because you're helping them achieve their ultimate goal. And when I say Facebook are going to send, I just mean from an algorithm point of view. If you're creating content that, you know, people are just swiping past or not engaging with, not watching, then Facebook aren't going to show anybody because you're going against what they ultimately want to try and achieve. So we need to try and focus on creating content that captures attention and then keeps attention and ideally gets somebody to engage with us. That's going to be different based on the different, you know, markets and businesses that people have that are listening to this. So what I would say is what we need to do is first make an assumption on what we think is going to work. And if you're already creating content for, say, YouTube or long form content, you hopefully have an idea of what resonates with your audience already. And then think about how can you take that, repurpose it into something shorter, into something that could work in the Facebook atmosphere environment, and then publish it and do that for a few weeks. And then start looking at the numbers in your Facebook dashboard to see, well, what's working and what's not. And one of the metrics that's really good and key to look at here is the average watch time for a video on Facebook. So the average watch time for a video on Facebook currently is 6 seconds. So people are watching videos on average for 6 seconds, which is nothing. So every time you post a video, go and check what that video average watch time was. If it's 6 seconds, you're average. If it's over 6 seconds, you're doing pretty well. If it's like 15, 20, 25 seconds, then you know that video is capturing the attention. And that's the type of video that you then go, right, what we want to do is promote it out to more people using paid. So that kind of blend, I would say, to get the best results is post your organic content and then promote the ones that perform the best organically with paid. And by doing that, you're essentially adding fuel to the fire. You're helping promote something that's already working, as opposed to what some people do is go, and this is purely an ego play, is people go, this video's done rubbish. It's got no views, no likes. I'm going to spend money on it to try promote it to get more likes and to get more views so I look better, as opposed to just skipping past that video and focusing on the one that actually does perform. So, I mean, something that we do a lot with clients and works really well is if you post a video every week, so you post 52 videos on Facebook, even if you only have one video that performs well, you can promote that video out for 365 days a year and ignore the other 51 videos that you posted. And that's going to be far better than, you know, putting £5 or $5 behind every single video. So we want to just focus on the winners. So it's going to be everyone's different. So we want to play a testing game and produce content, see what works, and then do more of what works and stop doing what doesn't work.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that what you're saying there is, you know, you're creating the videos and then you're putting them onto Facebook. And then, you know, as you said, testing and putting money on the ones to boost the ones that are performing well. That's a different strategy to, you know, actually somebody thinking, right, I must create a video now for a Facebook ad. And the only intention of the video is that it is posted as a Facebook ad. Now, do people tend to do that, or do people tend to do, as you said, create videos as posts and then boost the post?
Yeah, so we want to kind of, as part of our organic content overall strategy, to be producing content and promote the ones that are working. But we also, I mean, if we're building a proper advertising campaign, then we would want to create specific ads for those specific campaigns, because then we can do kind of fun things to say, create a video that's like, hey, I saw you looked on my podcast page on my website. Thanks so much for that. You might be interested in XYZ. So it's like, in an ideal scenario, a combination of both. But I would say if somebody is brand new to Facebook or just thinking about running Facebook ads, then that initial strategy of first focusing on your content strategy, get that nailed down, and then only spending money on the ads, on the videos that are performing well, is a really good place to start.
Yeah, and I think as we talked about, you were saying a struggle that you have is convincing your clients to create that, organic content as well as the content that goes through ads, and convincing them there's still a reason to have an active page and an active feed. If you have that strategy, you're kind of forcing yourself, aren't you, to stay in the interaction, engage, like active page role. You're forcing yourself to do that, but monitoring what you're going to go all in on with a bit of a budget, which makes sense. And I know what you mean about the retargeting, because we, a lot of my friends who don't know this world of ads and retargeting and stuff, they hate it when they say it's spooky and Big Brother, and don't like it when people really directly say, hey, you're seeing this because you abandoned my pay cart recently, or something like that, or you're seeing this because you were on the, you recently purchased something and, you expressed an interest straight after it looking at this product as well, or something like that, because it seems a bit Big Brothery. And if you know this world that we know, well, it's actually just this really straightforward process of pixels and retargeting and things like that. But not a lot of people necessarily like that approach, do they, as well, when it's really, do you find that when it's really overt retargeting, that a lot of the general public don't think it, if they find it like a bit not smarty pants but spooky?
Yeah, I would definitely say the kind of, whenever you hear people speak about it, it's always with a negative slant, in that's a little bit weird. I don't like that. However, on the flip side, it's always the best performing ads.
Is it really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you the best return on ad spend ads that you can run are for somebody that has checked out or added something to their basket on your website but haven't purchased. I will always be the best performing from a return on ad spend perspective. The only problem is there's not that many people in there typically, so you can't spend lots and lots of money on it. But like you say, it's quite funny. People will say that, but then when you look at the results, those are always the best performing ads.
That's really interesting. So, so you there's not a lot to spend on because you're not that many people in that profile, but when there is, it's worth the spend because it performs well. It's funny that, I guess, even when people say that, maybe they still went and clicked or did whatever. It's a good reminder, I guess. So with videos, like, I know that video is big on Facebook, and we've talked about how you can look at the watch rates and then put money on that and everything. Let's look at different forms of content. So let's say you are a podcaster and you put podcast out every week, podcast on your host, on your website, and you're forming that strategy for more people on Facebook being aware of your podcast episodes, or even the fact that you have a podcast. What kind of strategy would you recommend for that, where, it's audio only, so we don't have the initial video to play with? Should we create a video specifically because that will still perform better? Or is there something else that we could be doing with that kind of content?
Yeah, so what I suggest we do is we try and create video in some shape or form. So that's either something that you do very well, Amy, is you create a video to say, I've just interviewed this person and this podcast has gone live.
Yeah.
You can do that. Or if you are doing an interview, podcast interview, and you've got video from Zoom or Skype, we can use that. Or something that I've seen one of my friends do very well is he interviews people in person, and we'll create quite a funny 10, 15 second clip with that person. So creating video that way. If not, if you can't do any of those forms, then what you can do is you can create like an audiogram video, and we can use that. So there's always a way to create video somehow. And the reason that this works really well is what we can do is we can create an ad on Facebook, or first of all, let's create a post on Facebook with that video and tell people about the podcast with a link to, ideally what I would say is actually link to your podcast page on your website. So we're not, cutting out half our audience with Android and iPhone. So for example, in this week's episode, we're speaking to XYZ all around Facebook ads. If you want to listen to the full thing, here's the link to the podcast page. And then in that post, you've got the video, that short video that's giving a little sneak peek of what's in the interview. Then we can promote that out to people that we think are in our relevant audience. And then hopefully we get people going to our website, and then that allows us going down a kind of further retargeting route. Once somebody's been on our website, if we have the Facebook pixel installed, that allows us to retarget them. If someone has watched that initial video in that post, we can also retarget them and send them back to the podcast. So the idea, the example of my friend who has the podcast, his podcast is essentially he gets famous sports people onto his show and interviews them around music. So what he does is every time he has a famous person, so he had like the Scotland football manager on, for example, he gets them to create a funny 10, 15 second, promo piece for that podcast. And he'll then post that onto Facebook, and he'll promote it to people that have an interest in Scottish football, or if the person's famous enough, you can actually target them based on their name. And so that the people that are seeing that ad are people that have an interest in that person. And then we can get hopefully hundreds or even thousands of views doing that, and then retarget all of those people to the specific podcast itself. So that is a strategy that's worked really well. Again, it's that kind of two-step process where we're creating the video content, promoting that out, and then retargeting people that have initially consumed. And the reason we do that is because having that initial piece of content, the video first, before going straight to the podcast, almost qualifies people to say that if you've watched that video of the Scotland football manager talking about this podcast episode, chances are you're actually interested in listening to the full thing. But if you don't watch that initial video, then you're not interested, so you won't get hit by that retargeting ad.
And does that help to reduce your spend as well then? The smarter you are and the more you actually try and disqualify people who aren't interested, does that mean, essentially you're just stopping yourself from wasting money because you really are going to put people off that you don't want to be going through on your ads as well? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if we post a link to the podcast and we direct that to people that have no idea who we are, we're going to be serving that ad to people that quite frankly aren't interested in it at all. So Facebook are going to go, right, well, it's not a very relevant ad, so cost is going to go up. People aren't engaging, so of course the cost is going to go up. Whereas if we kind of go that smarter route and we serve a piece of valuable content first, then Facebook is going, well, that's just an interesting piece of content. They're not really making an ask. People are more likely to engage with it, so it's going to make Facebook happier and thus reduce the costs for us. So yeah, it definitely helps with reducing the costs and also getting us people that are more likely to actually take that action and listen.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. I guess something that I'm thinking here is that for people who are starting out or don't have a particular big budget, and perhaps they, the budget that they do have is going into the podcast or the YouTube, the videos or the content overall. And then this process of the promotion out on social media, they may not necessarily have much of a budget. And I imagine there'll be people listening who are thinking, well, actually, I don't know how to do any of this retargeting and things like that. So I'd have to pay someone to place the ads as well as actually pay for the ad spend as well. So maybe you're thinking still, right, this just then doesn't sound like the platform for me because I don't have that budget at this moment in time. How can people without a budget, if it's possible, how can they bypass the noise somewhat? It won't be as effective, of course, because if you pay for anything, you usually get what you pay for. You're paying for something premium. But if you don't have a budget, we talked about the blend, but what about zero? So zero spend, completely organic. What have you seen working for attempting to bypass that noise and still get your long form content promoted on the platform?
Yeah, so for one of the best free ways to promote content on Facebook is, in my experience, is by using Facebook groups. So find groups that are relevant to your niche. Now, if you're in marketing like us, and even if you're kind of in the coaching sphere, this is going to be much more difficult for you to do because those types of groups are much more susceptible to people like spamming and promoting their own work in it. So chances are they'll get removed. But an example is a couple of years ago, I used to create a lot of outdoor Scottish content. And that content was me, going hiking at the weekends and swimming in the sea and all those types of things. And I used to get, on average, probably about 20, 30, 40,000 views per video every single week, sometimes getting up to, I think the most viewed one was 300,000, totally organic. And the way that I did it was I just identified groups that were all such like Scotland outdoor lovers, Scotland camping, all these types of outdoor Scottish groups, and just promoted my video into them. When I say promoted, I mean like simply just share the video into those groups. And the views from that were just like through the roof. Now, I can't do that right now with the content I create around Facebook ads and marketing, because the types of groups that I'd be posting into, people are just going to be like, you're spamming, and it's just not going to work. But if you're in the business of, let's say, guitar teaching, or you have a niche that is away from that kind of business marketing, then that is honestly the best organic content strategy I can give you from a distribution point of view. Because if you post a video, a guitar lesson into, or you unboxing a new guitar, and you share that into a guitar lovers Facebook group, you're going to get engagement and you're going to get a ton of views, which then feeds into, I know we said no paid, but your retargeting audience, if you ever want to use that, or just generally people following your page. So 100% Facebook groups.
Yeah, and the reason that I love that so much is because not only can you, as you said, post your content and get that in front of people who are super specific to what you're trying to achieve, but it can help you formulate your content strategy as well, can't it? Because if you're in a super focused group and you see people asking questions and things like that, and you see all the hot topics and hot discussions, and then you think, right, okay, I'm a podcaster and I've seen that question asked 10 times in the last few weeks. Next week's podcast episode is going to be all about that. Then not only do you start creating content that serves, people in that group, but of course people who aren't in the group but are still your ideal audience. And then, it helps you content plan. It helps you know what questions people are asking. And if you do then post, it's funny, you should ask that question next time it's asked. I did like a full podcast episode on that recently. That's not spam, is it? That's sharing content is helpful, because you're not saying get this free download or pay for a consultation with me, or I've just PM'd you some spammy message. It's just saying here's something that answers the question and it helps you out. So it can help in upwards and downwards, can't it? Promoting, but also creating as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a perfect example of that is I saw in one of these groups, there was a massive debate that was started by someone else, not me, around Should we let more tourism into Scotland because it's ruining our roads and there's rubbish on the side of the roads and all this sort of stuff? So rather than getting stuck into the conversation in the comments and spending an enormous amount of time in there, I just filmed a video. And I essentially took the comments that people were using in the video, some pros, some cons, put my own opinions on it, created a video, and then shared that into the group and answered the question, got a ton of attention because it was part of that kind of that highly heated debate, and the video did extremely well. So in all of these different groups, there's going to be examples of that. Like you say, there's going to be questions people are asking, and simply just looking at them and going, right, I'm going to answer that question on my podcast, and then link to the answer, link to the podcast episode to that person's post. There you go. You've just got somebody that has asked the question, you're answering it. And it's perfect content distribution.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a great, just find those groups and play by the rules of the groups, and, be creative, as you said, like creating new and different content. And if you jump on and create a video for a group, obviously there's more then that you can do. You can repurpose that. You can share it on Instagram or put it out as a tweet as well, and, make it go further than just that group as well, can't you? Depending on how you word it and how you phrase things and things like that. But there's so much that can come from just being responsive in the groups and paying attention. So really, I guess the big takeaways from our conversation is that no, Facebook is not somewhere, so you shouldn't be leaving Facebook, but you should have a good strategy in place and know what you want to achieve and be intentional with your content. Ads, do work. Of course they do. It's the most powerful platform, but you need to be good with your targeting. And more importantly, put your money on your winners and then retarget, like focus on the retargeting aspects to get the best bang for your buck. And if you've got no budget, but you want to still try and grow presence in an audience, but more so get your content in front of people, groups is the place to be, really. That's a massive kind of takeaway from this episode. Is there anything else, any kind of biggies, any big kind of maybe getting started or refocus for 2020 on Facebook tips for anyone, as any kind of closing comments for this week's episode?
I think one thing I would just leave with is to say that you can get results on Facebook for, the minimum you can spend on Facebook is $1 a day. And depending on your goals, even if you just want a little bit more brand awareness, you want a little bit more people watching your video, or maybe you're going down a retargeting route, which is slightly more complex, you can get results for not a lot of money. So although Facebook maybe is a pay-to-play platform now, although there's strategies that we spoke about on how to get the most from an organic perspective, you don't have to break the bank to advertise on Facebook. And so I would say try and either go down two routes. I would say if you don't have much time, you're not very techie, and you just want to get, the easiest strategy on Facebook is just start boosting the best performing organic pieces of content, but be sure to drill in your targeting when you do that. If you're a little bit more techie and you want to kind of drive more business results, but you, again, maybe don't have a huge amount of budget to put behind it, is look into retargeting and how you can maybe retarget people that have been on your website or watched your videos and send them to your offers and your sales pages, etc., to try and drive those actual results, because retargeting will be the best performing ads you can run from a return on ad spend perspective, but promoting the organic content that you produce will be the easiest ads that you can run, but you can still get results from.
Yeah, and it's crazy that you can start with something as low as $1 a day, isn't it, as well? So even just to become more familiar with the platform, it's good to maybe just start on lower budgets, like you said. Well, how would you recommend people learn, even because it can be quite a confusing advertising platform. It's not always the most intuitive, is it? It's quite fiddly sometimes. Is there what resource, or is that something that you yourself help people with in terms of understanding the basics? I know you run ads for all sorts of businesses and brands, but do you help people understand how to use Facebook ads as well, or have any tips on that just for the basics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got my Funnel Academy, which is $49 a month, and inside there we essentially take people through absolute no knowledge of funnels and ads and retargeting, all the way to being able to run and manage your own ad campaigns and set everything up. So that's in there. But if people want free resources, then they can head to my website, my YouTube channel, where I've got a ton of free videos, ton of free blogs, free guides that people can download for free. So that's all over at mrgavinbell.com.
Brilliant. Okay, that sounds fantastic. So you've got everything then. So I'll link over there in the notes, mrgavinbell.com. And is anywhere else that people can go to reach you, or is that the main place that we should send people to on the show?
Yeah, if you want to get in touch, you can head there, or any of the social media platforms. I'm there with the exact same handle, Mr. Gavin Bell. Mm-hmm. Probably the best to get in touch is Instagram. Just slide into my DMs at Mr. Gavin Bell, and happy to answer any questions that people have.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks, Gavin. Well, that's been such a great conversation. Could talk for ages about this whole world of Facebook and what to do and how to stand out and everything. But I need to wrap up here. So thank you so much for coming on. I will put links to your website, your social media and everything. And good luck to everybody with Facebook as well. It's been a wonderful episode and you've given so much great tips and advice. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that discussion. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe if you haven't already, and even leave a review. That would be really appreciated as well. Now, to let you know, my new book, Content 10x, More Content, Less Time, Maximum Results, is now available to purchase. You can get that over on Amazon, or if you head to content10x.com/book. I'm getting loads of really great reviews coming in from the book already, so thanks so much to those of you who have already purchased it and left reviews. It really is the ultimate guide to content repurposing, and you can discover all sorts of tips and tricks for how to repurpose pretty much any type of content in the book. If you're interested in our fully end-to-end content repurposing service, then head on over to content10x.com as well, where you can find out lots about that. And also give me a follow over on social media. I'm at content10x on all of the social media platforms. So again, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.